What is up, soldiers? Welcome back to the channel. Have you ever wondered about what extension does in Dart or in Flutter and why to use them? First of all, the question is why to use them? Why to use anything? So, if you go to the Google and you search extension in Dart or extension in Flutter, like I did, like a normal person would do, so you go to this link extension method Dart. When you are here, you will try to read this documentation, even though Flutter and our team put too much effort into writing this documentation. But to me, this extension documentation was not good enough. Maybe personally, I didn't feel it to be the best, because if I go here and I try to read these sentences, maybe I am not able to understand. Like okay, you told me that okay, in dot parse, like here 42, I just made a extension called parseInt just to shorten the value, shorten the tool actually, and it will be easy to use. But how would I use it in my real project? So that is what we will be talking in today. So this is a prototype I created for you guys. I know I'm not very good at it, but I tried to be. So let's say I have three containers. I have a screen which has three containers, and I have few fields like name, age, description. So the question is, I want some padding to these containers. My screen needs padding. So the basic thing I would do is I use padding. I'll wrap the even the container has a property called padding, the parameter. You can pass the values to that. Otherwise, if it's any other widget, what we will be doing is we will be wrapping it with the padding widget, then we will be giving it to padding. That is fine. That is absolutely fine. A normal person would do that. But if you have, let's say, 30 screens and you have to write whole code padding, okay, padding horizontal, vertical, whatever, even more, to try to make it more difficult, I want this container to be like 20 pixels from left and 20 pixels from right. Then I want this container to have 30 pixels from right and 30 from right and 30 from left. So I want different padding for different containers, these three containers. So what will I do is I'll give padding values to these different containers, and it will be easy. But if I have something easier, like if I have a method, if I have something, a function that I can tell these widgets, I can tell these containers that you have to do the padding, but I don't have to write whole sentence. I don't want to use that padding, let's say the padding argument or parameter. I don't want to use it. I don't want to wrap it with the padding widget. Then I can use this extension method, and I'll show you just how to use it. The second scenario we will be looking into today is we have we have these string values. Obviously these are string values. So in a project, I want these, like let's say that user is being like inputted, like we ask the user to input some value. Like here I want the user to input his name. Then I want, see, some users are like, they don't even try to be, they don't want the capital letter first, right? Let's say my name is Rajat, so I'll go RAJAT. I write in this small letter, but in my design I want the first letter to be capital. So what I'll do is I'll create a logic for that, and I'll be using that logic to create that name, to display that name, the first letter to be capital. So I'll do that. That is very easy. But I want every word to be capital. The letter should be, first letter should be capital for every word. Then I'll write that logic again for that word. Then I'll write the logic for again. So either I can create a function, but that is the place where extensions can help us right there. So we will be looking into that scenario also. So let's move to the, let's say, the code, how to write the extension, the syntax. So first we write extension, that is a keyword. Then we gave it a name like we do for a class or a function. Then we give it a name. Then we use a keyword. Then we give it a type, like on which type do I want. Type can be any object. See, the object is a base class for anything in this Flutter and Dart. So let's say I want to give this extension on a widget. So I'll write a widget on this type, or either I want string value, either I want integer value, or anything. Then I'll write my code. So let's switch over to the application. So I already created an application, a demo application. What I did is I created a landing page, and that landing page has two flat buttons. I know this doesn't look like a flat button, but it is. So if I tap on this screen one, I have these containers which I was talking about earlier. Then I go back and I'll see screen 2. Then I have some text which I want to be capital, but the user inputted. The user is like me, stupid. So what he did is he gave it in the small letters, but I want to display it in the first letter to be capital. So we will be looking into those scenarios. So let's go to the screen first one. Then my screen one code is here. There is a very simple containers we have. So what I was talking about is I want to give this 80 container a padding of a horizontal padding, to be exactly, to say it like that I want to give a padding which will be edge inset dot not only symmetric. So I'll give a horizontal padding of 20 pixels. So I'll copy it just to save us some time. Then I want this yellow container to be 30. Then I want this green to be 40 and this blue one to be 60. Oh my god, 60. So if I save it, I'll have these different paddings for each container. So this is a very pretty and a normal way to write it. Okay, I don't know what happened. Let me just, okay, this is a padding, sorry. What we can do is we can give a margin actually. So this is what happens when you don't learn these things properly. So I also talked about container in my Flutter layout widgets. It's a beginner series, you can say. So you can find, I don't know where the link will be, but yeah, there will be. So this is the margin I wanted to talk about. This is 20 pixels, and 30, then 40, and then 60. So this is a pretty nice way to write it, right? But what I want is I want to have some method. I want to have something to make my life easier, not to write this whole line again and again. I want this column to have a similar padding. I want all the containers to have a 20 pixel margin or padding, you can say. So right now what I can do, the better way is, like, some people can argue that I should delete this and I should wrap this column with a container and give this a container or a padding, whatever you like. I can give this one a padding of same 20 pixels horizontally, right? That is also a way to do it, because I want to give constant padding to each container in this column. So this will be the same result. Now I was talking about I also talked about one day in a video where I talked about how to make your application scalable. So is this a way? I think no, because for every other screen I will have in the future, I have to give this padding 20 pixels. Then if the users or if the client says that, yeah, I want 30 pixels, I don't want 20 pixels, so I'll go to each and every screen to change it, right? Now this is where extensions will come. So let's go to lib folder and create a folder called helper. Here I'll create a file called extensions.dat. Now I'll create extension, and as I told you before, extension is a keyword. I use a keyword, then I give a name. So I'll say padding helper. Then I will say on which type I want, which type of object I want. I want to give this padding on a widget, so I'll use a widget. Then I'll have to import this one because it's a material. So I have this one. Now what I can do is I can create a function or a method, you can say. So we'll just create it now. So there are many ways to do that. So the extension method, particularly talking about extension, they can have a getter, setter, or any function you want which has a written type, right? So we will be using a padding because it is a written type of a padding. So we want a getter which will be called PH. Why PH? Padding horizontal. I'll say that. You can type any name because this is a getter. Then how this is a fat arrow we will be using for a return type. Then it will be written a padding widget, you can say, and this will be like this. Now the padding widget have a padding, and we want edge inset. Let's say this horizontal was to give a 20 pixel padding. So this is a getter. We are not passing any value. So we want edge inset dot symmetric, and we want horizontal 20. So this is a way to do it. We can do it like this also. So if I go to, I'll save it, and I'll go to my screen first, and instead of this container, what I can do is I'll remove it, and I'll go to the column, because column is a widget, so I can write. Now see, this is the way how to use it. So I can use dot, one single dot, and then I can say ph20. So we have to import it, and you won't be able to import it like this because Dart would understand what are you saying. So I'll go to this, and I'll copy the relative part, the relative path, and I'll paste it. So this is the problem with the Windows. I have to change this one. So this is how I can use it. Or the other thing is copy path. Just copy the path. So this is a whole path, I can say. So I'll just use it like this. So I'll import it, and I'll use the semicolon. So I use it like a relative path, what I was talking about. So now I have this padding. So if I save this one, and I will have the similar output. So okay, what happened to you? So I'll go back, and I'll see what happened to you. Why are you gone? I'll have my container back, I guess, and I'll remove this one to here, and I'll see the padding. Okay, I don't have the okay, so why don't I have the padding? I'll tell you. I'll go here, and you can see this padding should have a child, right? But I didn't provide it a child. So I'll go to the child widget, and I'll say this stands for this particular widget which will be using on this ph20, on which we will be using it. So this is a reference to that widget we will be using on. So if I go and I'll save this one, so they will be back from the dead. So this is how we can use extension for a padding helper, or to make it more beautiful. What we can do, we can have a padding, and we can say ph, and it would be a function which will return a padding, and here we will be using double padding, how much you want, right? So now this will return again a padding widget, and this padding widget will have a padding of edge inset sets dot symmetric horizontal, and the padding which we are taking from the parameters, right? So this is a ph is a function, you can say this is a function which returns a padding. Again, don't forget for the child, because child we need it, and we will be referencing this. So this means this widget which we are using on. So I'll save it. Now what I can do is I can experiment it. So I'll go, I'll say ph, and now ph takes a padding value. So how much I want 40 padding. So let's see the difference. So this is a more generic function, you can say this is a more generic extension, so we can give a custom value to it. So this is a more far way better than what we used, right? So you can create a getter setter, I said. So you can create anything on this, and you can have extensions working on. So I do use padding in my real projects, and I'll advise you, if you have a bigger application and you want to keep your application as much scalable as it can get, so you should use extensions perfectly. Now the second scenario which I was talking about was creating a capital letter. So again, if I go to this title, so what happened is I'll have 3 different values, which will be definitely a input value from the user, but I have created a custom value. So what I can do is I can have this one here also. This will be a global variable. Now I can do is title. So if I want to capitalize it, I'll say void capitalize. So I'll say string value we can say. So this is a generic this is a function which I want to show you before we move to extension. So this is how we can achieve a capitalizing the first letter. So I'll say return. So whatever the value you are inputting, I want substring to it, and I want the 0 value. The 0 was the 0th position. Then I want this to be uppercase. Then I want this to add. I want to add this one. So what will happen is it will take the 0th position, it will capitalize it before returning to this string. Then we will use substring again, and we will be using this one. So this is how we can create a capitalize. So if I go to my title, I can say final capital title, just to show you guys. Capitalize, and the value will be title. So I'll use this one instead of this title. So to check if this is working, so let's see if this works. Okay, so this didn't work because we need 0 1. This is my bad. So you can see the title is the capital S. You can see the capital S. So now how to create an extension for it. So again, I do use it in my real projects also if I have some similar thing. So I'll use the extension keyword in my extension dot file, because I want to keep my app as much clean as I can do. So I'll say it will be capital helper. It will be a capital helper, or you can say any names, because see, you can see this is a scope for a padding helper. I have all these paddings inside this, so I can use any other name if it is more generic. So I want this extension on an object, and which will be a type of string, because in this case we will be using a string, not a widget. Dum. Then I can go to my this particular function, and I'll cut it and I'll paste it here. So this is how I can have this extension here. Now the simple thing, I don't have to write all this code. What I have to do is, first of all, I have to import the extension. So I'll go to screen 2 and I'll import my extension. Now I had title here, right? So I will be using the curly braces, and I'll say dot capitalize. You can see this word, right? Capitalize. Another thing. We don't want to pass this value. Why? Because we already can reference it using this. So instead of value, I can say this. So we don't want to pass anything. We already have everything we need. So we will be removing this value. Okay. Also, I'll go to my first name, and then I'll use capitalize. Then I'll go to my last name again, and I'll use capitalize. So if I save it, let's see the difference. So you can see all the first letters are capital now. So this is how we can use extension, and what we had to do is nothing, absolutely nothing. We wrote this function once and we can use it anywhere we want. So this is how extension can help you make your life easy, make your application scalable, and this is how you can unleash the power of extension, I would say, in that way. So this is a very basic example you can do on these, but you can even have on pressed methods, you can have your different animations, you can create literally anything using extension. So this is how we use extension, and I'll see you in the next video. If you like it, please like, share and comment. You know the process. So I'll see you next time.